When my son forgot me after his marriage, I did not scream. I did not ask him why. I did not even cry in front of him. I simply stood in the kitchen, holding a cup of tea that had already gone cold, and I smiled. I do not know why I smiled that day. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was shock, or maybe it was because I had spent my whole life learning how to swallow my pain quietly. A mother becomes very good at that. We learn to hide our tears behind warm food, clean clothes, and gentle words. That afternoon, the house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels heavy. The sunlight came through the window and rested on the dining table where I used to serve his favorite meals. The chairs were in their places. The clock was ticking. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal. He had just told me, in a calm voice, that things would be different now, that he had responsibilities, that he had a new family to focus on. A new family. I remember thinking, was I not family anymore? I nodded when he spoke. I even said, "Of course, beta, I understand." My voice sounded steady. I surprised myself. Inside, though, something small cracked. Not loudly, not like breaking glass. It was softer than that, like paper tearing slowly. I had raised him alone after his father passed away. I had worked long hours. I had skipped meals sometimes so he could eat more. I had stayed awake through his fevers. I had prayed every night for his happiness. And now, he was happy. So why did it hurt so much? I never wanted to compete with his wife. I never wanted to stand in the way of his new life. I only wanted a small space, a chair at the table, a cup of tea together in the evening, a simple, "How was your day, Ammi?" But life does not always give you what you quietly hope for. That was the beginning, and I did not know then how much more I would have to let go. My son Ahsan was born on a rainy evening. I still remember the sound of the rain hitting the hospital windows. When the nurse placed him in my arms, he was so small, so warm. His fingers wrapped around my arms as if he already knew me. From that moment, my world became him. His father was a gentleman, but he was not strong in health. When Ahsan was 7, his father left this world quietly, just like he had lived. One day he was there, the next day he was gone. I did not have time to fall apart. There were school fees to pay, groceries to buy, a child who needed comfort, so I became strong. I took stitching work from neighbors. I taught children in the evenings. Sometimes I cleaned houses. I did whatever I could. I never felt ashamed. Every stitch, every lesson, every coin earned was for my son. At night when Ahsan was asleep, I would sit beside his bed and watch him breathe. I would whisper small prayers. "Give him a good life," I would say. "Give him a loving home." I never once asked that he would never leave me. Maybe that was my mistake. Ahsan was a sweet child. He would run into the house after school and shout, "Ammi, I'm home." Those were my favorite words. He would tell me everything. Who fought with whom, which teacher scolded him, what game he played. We did not have much money, but we had laughter. On Fridays, we would share one small piece of cake from the bakery. We would cut it into 2 equal parts. Sometimes he would push his piece toward me and say, "You eat more, Ammi." I would pretend to take a bigger bite just to make him smile. Time passed quickly. Children grow without asking permission. One day they are holding your hand to cross the road, the next day they are walking ahead of you. When he got into university, I felt proud, so proud. I ironed his clothes carefully every morning. I packed his lunch even when he said he could eat outside. He would hug me before leaving. "Pray for me," he would say. "I always do," I would answer. After graduation, he found a job in the city. It was a good job, a respectable office. The day he received his first salary, he placed the envelope in my hands. "For you," he said. I shook my head. "No, beta, keep it. You need it." But he insisted. "Everything I am is because of you." Those words filled my heart like sunlight. That was the son I knew. When he told me he wanted to get married, I felt happy, truly happy. I had prayed for this too. I wanted him to have companionship. I wanted laughter in the house again. Her name was Sana. She was educated, soft-spoken, and beautiful. The first time she came to our house, she brought sweets. She touched my feet respectfully. "I hope I can be a good daughter," she said. I smiled and placed my hand on her head. "You already are." I meant it. The wedding was simple but joyful. Our small home was decorated with lights. Relatives filled every room. I watched my son sitting beside his bride, his face glowing. He looked like his father that day. After the wedding, the house felt different. There were new perfumes in the air, new clothes in the cupboards, laughter in whispers behind closed doors. I tried to give them space. I stayed mostly in my room in the evenings. I did not want to disturb them. I would hear them talking softly, sometimes laughing. It made me smile. In the beginning, Sana would sit with me in the kitchen. She would ask for recipes. "How do you make his favorite curry?" she would say. I would show her patiently. I felt hopeful. Maybe I would not lose my son. Maybe I would gain a daughter. But slowly, small things began to change. It started with small silences. Ehsan stopped sharing every detail of his day. When I asked how was work, he would say, "Fine, Ammi." Just one word, "Fine." He began eating dinner in his room sometimes. "We have some work to discuss," he would say gently. I nodded, "Of course." Sana also became quieter with me, not rude, never rude, just distant. She would smile politely, she would help when needed, but there was a wall I could not see, yet I could feel. One evening I was setting the table when I heard Sana say softly from their room, "We need our own space." Her voice was calm, not angry. Ehsan replied, "I know." Those two words stayed in my ears. I told myself not to think too much. Every new couple needs time. I had been a young bride once too. But the house felt smaller. Sometimes I would enter the living room and their conversation would stop. They would smile at me, too quickly. I began spending more time outside. I visited neighbors. I sat longer in the park nearby. I did not want to be the reason for their discomfort. One afternoon, Sana approached me in the kitchen. "Ammi," she said softly, "we were thinking maybe it would be better if we move closer to his office." My hands froze over the sink. "Oh," I said, "is the office far?" She replied, "It takes time, and we want to start fresh." Start fresh. I looked at her face. She did not look cruel. She looked hopeful, like a young woman dreaming of her own home. I nodded slowly. "If that is what you both want." That evening Ehsan came to me. "Ammi, you know I love you," he began. "Whenever someone starts like that, you know something painful is coming. We just think it'll be easier for everyone." For everyone. I smiled again, that same strained smile. "Go," I said gently, "build your life." He hugged me, but it felt shorter than before. The day they moved out, I stood at the door as the moving truck drove away. The house became silent in a way I had never known before. Not peaceful silence, empty silence. I walked into his room. The walls looked bare. The cupboard doors were open. I touched the shelf where his books once stood. I whispered, "Be happy." For the first few weeks he called often, every evening. "Did you eat, Ammi?" "Yes." "Are you okay?" "Yes." I always said yes. Then the calls became fewer. Work was busy, life was busy. 1 week passed without a call. I did not want to disturb him. I told myself, he will call when free. Sometimes I would hold the phone in my hand, thinking of dialing his number. Then I would put it down. I did not want to seem needy. Months passed. When I visited their apartment, it was beautiful. Bright curtains, modern furniture, everything new. Sana welcomed me politely. She served tea in delicate cups. Ehsan seemed distracted. His phone rang often. "Work," he would say. I would sit on the edge of the sofa, feeling like a guest. One evening, as I was leaving, I said softly, "Come home sometime. I made your favorite dish last week. He hesitated. We will try, Ammi. It is hard with schedules. We will try. Those words began to replace promises. On my birthday that year, I woke up early. I cleaned the house. I even baked a small cake by myself. I did not tell anyone it was my birthday. Around noon, my phone rang. It was a neighbor wishing me. I smiled and thanked her. By evening, the cake was still untouched. At night, I received a message from Ehsan. Beta, I am not well. He replied after hours. I am out of town for work. Take medicine. I will visit when back. Out of town. I stared at the wall. For 3 days I stayed in bed alone. The neighbor brought soup. She checked my temperature. On the 4th day, Ehsan called. How are you now? Better, I lied. He sounded relieved. Good, I was worried. I wanted to say I needed you. But I said nothing. After that illness, something inside me changed. It was not anger, it was acceptance. I began preparing myself for a different life, a quieter one. I joined a small women's group at the mosque. We met every Thursday, we shared stories, we drank tea. Some of them also had sons who lived far away. One woman said softly, children do not leave because they stop loving. They leave because they start building. Her words stayed with me. I began to understand that my son was not cruel. He was growing into a role that did not always include me at the center. Still, the pain remained. One day, unexpectedly, Sana came to visit alone. She looked nervous. Ammi, she said sitting across from me, I think you feel we took him away. I was surprised by her honesty. I shook my head slowly. No, a mother cannot be taken away. She only steps back. Her eyes filled with tears. We never meant to hurt you. I believed her. In that moment, I realized something important. Silence had built walls between us. Not hatred, not evil intentions, just silence. I reached for her hand. I said gently, he is your partner now, but he will always be my son. There is space for both. She squeezed my hand. That evening, Ehsan arrived too. He looked at us sitting together and seemed relieved. Everything okay? He asked. I smiled. Everything is okay. For the first time in a long while, we ate dinner together at my small table. It felt simple, not perfect, but warm. Things did not return to how they were before, they never do, but something softened. He began calling more often, not every day, but enough. On my next birthday, he came with a small cake. He hugged me longer than usual. Sorry for last year, he whispered. I did not ask how he remembered. I only said, I am happy you are here. Now when I sit alone in the evenings, I no longer wait by the phone. I have learned to fill my days with small joys, a walk in the park, a book, tea with friends. I still miss the boy who shouted, Ammi, I am home. But I also see the man he has become, responsible, caring in his own way. Love changes shape over time. It becomes quieter, less loud, but not always less deep. If there is one thing I have learned, it is this. Do not hold your children so tightly that they feel guilty for growing, and do not let go so completely that they forget to look back. Speak, share your heart, build bridges before silence builds walls. My son did not forget me completely, and I did not lose him completely. We simply had to learn how to find each other again. And sometimes that is enough.